Now, with all of this going on with the college campuses and stuff, because you got a lot of college students out there, let's go on now to our next slide, and let's play a little game, my friends. We're going to have some fun. It's called College Students' Answers to Basic Questions, because as you're listening and watching to these pro-Palestinian protests, and by the way, they're not pro-Palestinian protests, they're pro-terrorism protests, and they're anti-Semitic protests. Terrorism is Satanism. But could possibly the college students have a handle on this stuff? You know, going to these Ivy League schools, I mean, they must know what they're talking about. What you're about to see here are going to be a list of questions that college students were asked in man-on-the-street interviews. Basic questions, and you'll see the answers that they gave. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go. Here's the first question. How many states are there in America? Now, these interviews were conducted, let's see, Michigan State, University of Louisville, UCLA, USC, and Cal State Fullerton. How many states are there in America? Next slide. 52. Am I right? Next question. What country is the Panama Canal in? We got 3 different answers for you, everybody. Here were the answers. Brazil, Florida. Wait, I did a report on the Panama Canal. It's Mexico. Oh, my God. Next slide. How many pennies are in 100? Why am I showing this to you? I'm showing this to you because I'm trying to let you know that these people have no idea what they're talking about and no idea what they're protesting for. And if you think they do, just check out the answers that they're giving to these really basic questions. So, how many pennies in $100? Answer, 100. Next question. How many terms did Benjamin Franklin serve as president? Shh. 2 answers for this. How many terms did Benjamin Franklin serve as president? Here were the answers. First answer, too many. Next answer, 4. Guys, Benjamin Franklin was never president. And by the way, if he was, he couldn't have served 4 consecutive terms because you can only go 2, one after the other, as the Constitution. I'm sorry, this is pathetic. Next question. Oh, guys, you're going to love this. Who was the first man on the moon? A question asked of college students. Get ready. The answer was Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong, first man on the moon. And there you can see everybody. There he is with his hands raised, celebrating that he's on the moon. Right there. And my goodness, there are other people on the moon there to greet him. That's amazing. I didn't know the moon had people. In fact, I was told that the moon didn't have air. How come they're all able to breathe? This is incredible. This should have come out a long, long time ago. Next question. Where is Mount Rushmore located? 2 answers. Boom. France and Russia. Hey, do these college students know what they're protesting about or what? Come on, I ask you. Next question. What is our nation's capital? The answer from college students was, here it is. Wait, there's a capital? Gosh. I swear I'm not making this up. And this next one, oh, this is my favorite one. There's 2 answers to this question. It's the last question. Who is on the 50-cent coin? 2 answers to this. Answer number 1, there is no 50-cent coin. You're trying to trick me. If you think that's crazy, though, this is the icing on the cake. And a college student actually answered this. Who is on the 50-cent coin? Here we go. 50 cents. He's got to be on the coin. It's a 50-cent coin. The wrapper, 50 cents. Makes sense to me. No pun intended. These are the same people who are out there in the streets saying, free Palestine, liberate Palestine, Israel is committing apartheid. How in the world can the world possibly think they know what they're talking about when they don't even know what the nation's capital is? Have I made my point? Great. Let's go on. And here's what's really sad. Acts of anti-Semitism in the United States are up nearly 400%. Actually, it's 388% if you want to get exact over this same time last year, especially on college campuses. Next slide. Why Israel, everybody? Why Israel? There are, 180 countries in the world? You know, sometimes as Jews we ask, it's like, God, yeah, 180 countries? Why did you have to choose us? I mean, we had a 1 in 179 chance. My gosh. Couldn't you have chosen somebody else? God has a very, very special and divine plan for his end-time prophetic plan of salvation. And in God achieving that plan, a whole lot of that plan has to do with things fulfilled in Israel among the Jewish people. You think maybe that might be the answer to why Israel? Let me give you another one. Genesis 3:15. You want to know why there's anti-Semitism? You want to know why, even though Israel is the most peaceful nation on the face of the earth and doesn't want to hurt anybody and has its doors open to anyone who wants to come in to extend goodwill, and yet she's the most hated nation on the planet, and my people are the most hated people on the planet? I've had so many people saying, Jack, you shouldn't wear this outside. You know what's going on. I'm like, I'm wearing it outside. I'll be darned if anybody is going to tell me that I can't wear this. I'm proud to be a Jew. And I'm not going to cater, I'm not going to cover myself to the whims of idiots. I won't do it. I won't do it. Genesis 3:15, here's why, Israel. Take a look at this next slide. Here's what Genesis 3:15 says. When I read this verse to you, it'll make no sense. But when I unpack it, the light bulb will go on. God said, and I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall fatally bruise your head, and you shall only bruise his heel. Wow, that's why it's Israel. Now we got it, right? No, we don't. You need context. The scene here is the Garden of Eden. The serpent has just tempted Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, and she did, and now she's on her way to share it with Adam. And God has a conversation with the serpent over here, and he says, you know, because you've done that, let me tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be a battle one day between her seed, the woman's seed, and your seed. Now, seed refers to descendant. But since that's the case, biblically, only a man can have what's called the seed. The only way a woman can have the seed is if she's giving birth to a child without the help of the man. I believe there's a term for it. It's called the virgin birth. The first prophecy of the virgin birth of Christ, guys, it's right here in Genesis 3:15. And so here's what God is saying to the serpent. You know, one day, one of your descendants, here's what's going to happen. He's going to get into a battle with the seed of the woman, with the one born of the virgin birth, with Jesus. And what's going to happen is your descendant, Satan, he's going to bruise Jesus on the heel. That's a non-fatal bruise. But in return, Jesus is going to bruise him on the head. That's a fatal bruise. So 2,000 thousands of years ago, God put the enemy on notice that one day when his descendant, Satan, returns, God is saying, hey, Satan, when you come back, guess what? There's going to be one who will destroy you. And that one who will destroy you, you're not going to be able to do much to him. Yeah, you'll give him a non-fatal bruise. I mean, yeah, he'll be crucified and he'll be put in the tomb, but he ain't staying there. You didn't kill him, but he's killing you. And that one who will kill you, Satan, his name will be Jesus or Yeshua. He will be the symbol of Israel, and he will be of the line of the Jewish people. Should we wonder at all why the world has a vested interest in going after Israel and going after the people of Christ Jesus' line? Now, here's the plan. You ready? Here's the plan of the enemy. The plan says, okay, so Jesus one day is going to, he's basically the son of Israel. Okay, so the son of Israel is going to come back one day to destroy me But in order for him to come back, he's first going to come back to Israel. Once he gets down to Israel, then he's coming after me. So here's Satan's plan. It's like, wait a minute. Let me see if I can convince a whole lot of people in the world to destroy the nation of Israel. Because if I can get them to destroy the nation of Israel, then Israel will no longer exist. And that way Jesus won't be able to come back because there won't be an Israel for him to come back to. And I win. That's the plan. Now you understand it biblically. That's why you've got what you've got going on today. And of centuries of anti-Semitism. It's because of that verse. Next slide. And this explains why all the protesters are demanding a ceasefire, yet none of them are demanding that the hostages be released. And that's why all the protesters are saying, Israel, you're killing innocent civilians and you're committing genocide. But none of them are saying, hey, Hamas, how come you're killing innocent civilians by not letting them get out of harm's way? You never hear them saying that for the other team, do you? Next slide. Is the Israel-Hamas war a prophetic sign? I keep hearing Ezekiel 38 and 39 like a broken record, guys. Well, this is it. This must be a sign of what's called the Ezekiel 38 and 39 war. Let me tell you what it says in those chapters. It says in those chapters that one day Israel will experience an enemy coming from the far north. Some people think it's Russia. To come down against Israel, there will be an alliance of countries, and they will try to wipe out Israel. It's also known as the Gog-Magog War. So people, man, if this isn't a sign of the Gog and Magog War, I don't know what is. Hold on. It's not a sign of the Gog and Magog War. Stop it. Read your Bibles. Let me explain why. A sign of the Gog-Magog War is when the people in Israel are living in peace and safety and declare peace and safety. In your wildest imaginations, do you think for a moment that people living in Israel are declaring peace and safety now? Right, so it can't be the Gog and Magog War, guys. It doesn't fit. Also, it says the enemy is coming from the far north to attack Israel. Please use your geography. Gaza is to the southwest. Syria, where the rockets are coming from, is from the east. Have rockets been coming over from Lebanon, from Hezbollah, which does border Israel to the north? Sure, but it's a really close north. It's right over the border. It's not the far north. You're talking about a country much, much farther north than that. It's not Ezekiel 38 and 39. But if you're really looking for something in prophecy, there's something else that does fit. Let me show it to you here on our next slide. Psalm 83, verses 5 through 9, talks about a coalition of nations that will come against Israel. I'm going to read you these verses of these ancient countries and peoples and territories, and then we'll see who those territories are today, because we know where they are geographically. It says, come, they say, let's wipe Israel out as a nation. Let Israel's name be remembered no more. For with one mind they plot together. Against you do they make a covenant. The tents of Edom, the Ishmaelites, Moab, the Hagrites, Gebal, Ammon, and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Even Assyria has joined them, becoming a strong arm for Lot's sons. A coalition of nations coming against Israel. Now, what if we were able to take these ancient names and figure out what areas they refer to? Then we'd know who the people and the nations are, wouldn't we? Check this out. We do. Go on to our next slide. Bill Salus is a wonderful author, and that's why I put that book up there. He's written this book called Psalm 83, The Missing Prophecy Revealed. And yes, I did bring a limited number of these in case you want to pick them up. He's identified the people and the nations that are referred to in those verses. The tents of Edom, look at this, Palestinians and southern Jordanians. These are the ones he say who will come against Israel. The Ishmaelites, the Saudis, Moab, Palestinians. Again, central Jordanians, the Hagrites, the Egyptians. Gebal or Byblos, Hezbollah, the terrorist group in Lebanon, there they are. And the northern Lebanese. Ammon, Palestinians again, and northern Jordanians. Amalek, the Arabs of the Sinai area. Oh my God, look at this next one. Philistia, you know who that is? Hamas of the Gaza Strip. Can we make it any plainer, guys? Tyre, Hezbollah, the terrorist group in southern Lebanon. Assyria, the Syrians, and the northern Iraqis. Now, got a question. Before we go on to our next slide, does this next slide have two people on it next to each other? Sorry? Oh, okay, no problem. Well, let's go on to our next slide. Great. Let me tell you about these two people. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at the Governor's Prayer Breakfast at Carroll College in Helena, Montana. We had about 700 or 800 politicians from all over the state of Montana, and they said, listen, we are coming together to make a declaration. We love Israel, we bless Israel, and Rabbi, we want you to come and share with us about what's going on in Israel. And I would say, sure, 700, 800 people from all across the state. And as I'm there, about an hour before I was to speak, one of the councilwomen or one of the assembly people came over to me and they said, listen, Rabbi, we want to let you know there are protesters outside. And I said, in Montana? This is Montana. Is that Montana? New York, yeah. Helena, Montana, you got to be kidding. They said, no. I said, I will go out there to see these protesters. They said, no, we don't want anything. I said, it's okay. I got this. I'm a New Yorker. So I walked outside, and I'm saying, because I didn't see them yet, and I get my camera phone out, and I'm going to take a picture of this massive group of protesters and send that photo to my wife, and she will be so proud of me. So I walk outside, and there they are. This massive group of protesters just waiting for me. And you know, I'm looking at them, and the first thought that came to my mind before I read their signs is like, you know, I've kind of, this arrangement of the guy and the girl with the stern faces, this reminds me of something I've seen somewhere in my past. I can't place it. Maybe it's, go ahead, go on to our next slide. Yeah, there it is. There, I mean, you know, the guy is standing on the other side. I said, yeah, that's it. All right, let's go on to the next slide, which is the one I just showed you. So I looked at these two folks, and I said to the guy, I said, okay, because his sign says Christ is peace. I said, man, I love your sign. He said, thank you so much. I said, you're welcome. And then I looked at the woman, and she's holding up a sign that says Free Palestine. And look, I mean, I spent some time in stand-up comedy, and I wanted to, oh my gosh, I wanted so much. You know, my thought, Free Palestine. I'm like, that's a pretty good deal. Last week, it was $500. You know, this week it's free. I wanted so much to do that. But I kept my composure. And I said, your sign, I'm not as crazy about. I said, why are you holding up this sign? And she gave me the same laundry list that you're hearing today, because this was like 8-9 years ago. She gave me the same talking points, parroting the same nonsense that you're hearing today. Israel is an occupier. Israel is committing apartheid. Israel is putting up blockades. This. And I said, okay, can I ask you a few questions? And she said, sure. I said, okay. I said, have you ever heard of something called the Balfour Declaration? Do you know what that is? She said, I don't know. I said, how about the UN partition plan of 1947? Do you know what that is? She said, I don't know. Yasser Arafat, I don't know. Anwar Sadat, Gamal Abdel Nasser, I don't know. The Oslo Accords, I don't know. The Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, I don't know. I said, then why are you holding up that sign? I said, do you not understand that you are taking a position on a particular cause that you yourself admitted that you know absolutely nothing about? I said, do yourself a favor. Go home and look up these things that I just spoke about to you. And do the research for yourself. And stop getting your education from CNN. My God. Do your homework. Do the research. Stop being lazy. Because once you get all the facts, I'm sure that if you're fair and open-minded, you will never be out here holding up a sign like that ever again. I don't know if she ever studied. It's my job and our job to present. It's God's job to convict. And guys, that's where we're at. And that's what's going on, and that's why it's going on. And I hope I've been able to enlighten you somewhat so that when those and the talking points and the voices who don't know any better come at you and say, why are you going to a church that loves Israel and don't you know that Israel is doing this, maybe now you'll have answers for them. Let's go on to our next slide. And it's the last one. Let me tell you a little bit about Jewish Voice Ministries because I'm so thankful and grateful, as always, Ralph and Lois, that will be receiving a special love offering for the ministry. I believe that before you give to any ministry, you should know a little bit about them first before you give to anybody. Paul says in Romans 1:16, I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God unto salvation for all who believe. First to the Jews, and then to the nations. Why give the gospel to the Jewish people first, Paul? Is it because they're more special than anybody else? No, God is no respecter of persons. It's not that they're more special. It's, you see, if the reason that God told Paul to go to the Jews first is that if Paul went to the Gentiles first to share the gospel, by the time he went to the Jews, they wouldn't have listened to him. That's why. And so in 1967 in Phoenix, Arizona, there was a Jewish man named Lewis Kaplan who realized that Jews don't have another way to heaven. They need Jesus just like everybody else. And he started witnessing to his own Jewish people who weren't hearing the gospel. Started off with a Bible study, grew into a newsletter, congregational services, a magazine, a television show. Now, guys, we're all over the world. Medical clinics in some of the poorest nations on the face of the earth for everybody to share the gospel with them. The love offering that we're going to be receiving, let me tell you where the money is going. And then I want to give you some cards from our ministry so you can keep in touch. But also if you want to bless the ministry with a love offering, but you didn't bring cash or check and you only have credit or debit card, that's what the back of that card will be for. You can put your information on it. Here's where the money's going. Our organization, Jewish Voice Ministries, we personally are not in Israel. We're in Phoenix, Arizona. We're in a relatively safe place. However, our organization takes your funds and gives those funds to 85 partner ministries that are on the ground right now, boots on the ground in Israel, and they've been there for years. And by the way, we make sure that all of those organizations share the gospel of Christ. Because there are a lot of organizations out there, and listen, God says use your discernment, test the spirits. There are organizations out there that will say, yay, Israel, we love Israel, yay, Jews, Christians together. And guess what? They don't share the gospel. Surprise! Don't be fooled anymore. And what we do is, here's what we're going to do with your love offering. It's going to Israel. Those partner organizations are going to do the following with it. Number one, they are going to supply IDF soldiers with needed food, with needed supplies on the battlefield. Grief counseling for families in those kibbutzim who lost loved ones. Many of them, they don't have their home. They have nothing. They don't have a place to live. Can't even live in your car if your car was bombed out. They are being relocated to have a roof over their head, clothes on their back, and food in their bellies. That takes, obviously, finances. Your funds that you're going to be giving today are going to help them. That is how we're going to bless Israel and carry out Genesis 12. Sound fair? All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you cards from Jewish Voice Ministries. And Brother Ralph, however you want them to be distributed, just raise your hands if you need one of our cards, please. And if you would, fill out the front of the card. The card, by the way, is in two parts. Fill out the front of the card, name, address, phone, city and state, etc. Toward the bottom of the card, there are three boxes. One says pray, give, and go. Let me tell you a little bit about the go box. For the past 20 years, I and Jewish Voice Ministries, we've been going to places like India, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Ethiopia. I've been to all these places multiple times. Thank you, Brother Ralph. And we go there because people there, there are Jewish people there, but we don't care. We'll help anybody. People there are dying from things we take in aspirin to remedy. So we hold, thank you, Brother Steve, medical clinics in these places and provide healing for them. They're blown out of their minds. They're like, you've come from the other side of the planet to do this for us? Why? And we tell them because the God who loves us loves you, and he wants to do this for you. And then we share and we pray for them to be healed, and then we give them the gospel. The last medical clinic that I was on was in a place called Masvingo, Zimbabwe. We were there for 5 days. In a 5-day period, our medical team treated more than 10,000 people in 5 days. Do the math. Incredible. Surgeries, everything from eyeglasses, dental care, you name it. At the end of the 5 days, of that 10,000, about 3,500 came into our prayer room willing to receive prayer and hear more about Christ. And when all was said and done, 1,462 gave their lives to Jesus, and that's what it's all about. If you work in the medical field, check the go box. We need you to come with us on a medical clinic. If you don't work in the medical field, check the go box. We need you to come with us on a medical clinic. You don't need a medical degree to sit under a prayer tent and share the gospel with somebody, do you? And look, don't worry. You're not under any obligation. When you check the go box, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be putting you on a plane to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia tomorrow. I'll wait until next Thursday. But somebody will contact you and let you know about the medical clinic. Back of the card, if you want to give in the love offering on credit or debit, that's the place to do it. When you're done with the card, fold it and tear it off at the perforation. Keep the smaller part of this card for you. Give the larger part of the card back to me at the materials table before you go. Some people like to hang on to it, and they say, well, I want to take it home. I want to send in, a gift separately, and that's fine. I want to take a moment or two, Pastor Ralph, maybe to talk about some of the materials that we have on our materials table to help those folks in Israel. I told you a few minutes ago about Psalm 83 that lines up Bible prophecy with those nations and people groups today, and there's a lot more in here. It's a fantastic book written by Bill Salas. How many of you have been to Israel, by the way? Okay, how many of you would like to go to Israel? Okay. Do you know one of the most popular souvenirs that people bring home from Israel? They say, I've got to go to Israel, and when I'm in Israel, I've got to make sure I bring back, and one of the most popular answers is olive wood. You haven't had the chance to go to Israel yet. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. So you haven't had the chance to get your hands on olive wood because you haven't been able to go there, but what if we brought the olive wood to you? Guys, this is from Israel. It hangs on the wall. It is olive wood. It's in the shape of the nation of Israel. And it's got Psalm 122:6 on it. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's absolutely beautiful. A couple of other things that I want to show you. This is a CD or a DVD. Yeah, this is a DVD study from our executive director, Rabbi Jonathan Bernis, called The 10 Biggest Lies About Jesus and His Jewishness. This is great introductory stuff for those who, on the one hand, still think, gee, I think there's a possibility that Jesus still might have originally been a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Norwegian who has a British accent in every full-length feature film. So it kind of puts him back in his proper historical culture and context as a Jew. This book, and I brought this one here before, is called Confessing the Hebrew Scriptures. We get a lot of people contacting us saying, you know what, Rabbi, man, I would just love it if there was a way that I could pray healing prayers over people. Somebody came up for healing prayers, and I'd like to pray those prayers